And we begin with this being a historic day for Western Europe's energy supply, which is now being bolstered by Russian gas directly through a brand new pipeline. President Dmitry Medvedev, Chancellor Angela Merkel and their partners in the project have turned the valve that's opened the receiving end of the Nord Stream line in Germany. The $10 billion project is the longest subsea gas route in the world. It will now provide a steady flow of much-needed Russian fuel to Germany and its neighbors without the need for transit countries. Let's get the latest details from RT's Daniel Bushell, who's at the scene of the Nord Stream launch. Daniel, well, the EU has been a major customer of Russian gas for many years now, but how much further will this pipeline take that partnership?
Yes, European leaders symbolically turned the wheel, sending the very first gas direct to the European Union, bypassing transit states. It will provide long-term energy security for Europe, which had been affected by previous transit rails with the likes of Ukraine and Belarus. It will also fill a shortfall in gas, which is projected to reach some 100 million homes by 2030. Now, this is a Europe-wide project. Why European leaders are here is because French, Dutch, German companies, energy firms have taken stakes in the Nord Stream pipeline that will guarantee supply to homes in those countries for the next 50 years at least, the lifetime of this current project. There are plans to send this gas onto Berlin and then onto the existing European network, onto countries like the United Kingdom as well.
Russia has always gone great lengths at fulfilling its obligations in the energy sector, and we would still say this is still our most important obligation, even at times when the economic situation in Russia was definitely difficult, but we endeavored to continue our gas supplies without interruption to Europe, and we will continue to do so in the future with our European partners in order to attract investment for the parts of the projects. And I am convinced that such a networked involvement will minimize risks along the entire energy supply chain.
Russian President Dmitry Medvedev speaking at the opening ceremony here on the German northern coast, the Baltic Sea, just behind me. Now, this should also provide cheaper gas for homes in Europe with no transit fees to be paid for the likes of Ukraine and Belarus, with gas going direct for the first time from Russia to the EU.
Okay, well, it's certainly an ambitious project. So how did it come about in the first place?
Well, they said that it couldn't be built. Experts were saying it's too long, it's too expensive. It is the longest subsea pipeline, the gas pipeline in the world. But it took some engineering brilliance. Just for one example, compressor stations, which keep the pressure in gas pipelines. Usually there are several across the route. This one just has one at the beginning of the route. It's been planned since the 1990s. Construction did start a few years ago. A second line will come on stream next year. And we've just spoken to some of the heads of the project, who say that a third line will be discussed by shareholders very shortly, because they expect demand for gas to grow and to keep growing even through this crisis, the euro debt crisis that we're seeing, to keep growing through the EU in the coming years.
All right, well, thanks very much for that. RT's Daniel Bushell live from the German coastal town of Lubmin, which is on the receiving end of the Nord Stream gas pipeline. Now, the director of the Russia-Eurasia program at the German Council on Foreign Relations, Alexander Rahr, says the Nord Stream pipeline is key to a secure future for European energy.
The Nord Stream pipeline is making energy security better for European Union. The energy import to the European Union will be safer now, because there is an extra pipeline which circumvents the difficult transit countries like Ukraine and Belarus, where Russian gas has disappeared over the past 10, 15 years. I think the Nord Stream pipeline is a political project as well, but for other reasons than the critics of the pipelines, I think. This through the energy alliance which the European Union and basically Germany is forging with Russia, we are trying to bring Russia closer to Europe, even integrate Europe and Russia into a common energy space. And if this space will be successful, then we can think about creating a common economic space, a free trade zone, and come also politically much closer together. So from my point of view, the energy alliance, which is being symbolized by this pipeline as well, will help us to build a common continent and make Europe more stable than it had been before.